pairs of slippers and 3 victims. If it's the same guy and he did have a plan, maybe he didn't get around to killing the other 2.
No, I don't think that the new victim, Sperling, was a part of the plan. I mean, he was only 38 years old. He wasn't even alive in 57.
Okay. Kills 3 victims. He gets sick, or goes to prison, or pulls Rip Van Winkle. Who knows? The guy woke up. Starts over.
I don't think so. The murders in 1957 were too symmetrical. There were supposed to be at least 5 victims.
Then why kill Sperling? He wasn't connected to anything back then.
Well, maybe not physically, but symbolically. A bullet through the heart, passion, some money, more symbols.
Why the slippers?
Whorehouse had a tradition. You left your shoes at the door.
Maybe the killer's mother was a hooker.
Victims who were clients?
Gotcha.
57, there was a victim every 2 days. That means tomorrow, if all this is connected.
Bailey, we're getting a fax from the Greensboro PD. Says nobody has checked in to see the satin slipper evidence since your Quantico group in '83.
So up until then, only 2 people besides law enforcement had seen the evidence. One is a reporter from the Greensboro Sentinel. She's alive and still living in Paris. The other, Dominic Latimer.
The author?
Yeah, crimes of the century, murder in Acapulco. He was doing research.
Which means he might have some notes.
Well, he was never a suspect. He was in Mexico when the original murders took place. That'll bring him down. We'll talk to him.
Excuse me, Bailey, but I just want to know one thing. How much do you love me?
Okay, a lot. Now tell me why.
Technology. Specifically stuff that wasn't available in 1957, like laser optics.
You found the fingerprint. Where?
On one of the old slippers. The little tag that says Made in China. It's a 5-point. Maybe we could find a match.
George, run it through print analysis.
Warp speed.
Whoever committed the murder on the river that day was very careful. He didn't leave anything. No fingerprints, no hair fibers, no nothing. He must have brought in a cleaning crew.
What about the bite marks?
Oh my God, Bailey, we got a hit.
Put it up, Georgie. 40 years, nothing. We'd nail the son of a bitch in less than a day. Monty Drake, born October 25th, 1937, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Right age, right place.
Sentenced 1957, Louisiana State Prison, second-degree murder while in the commission of an armed robbery.
Okay, this is weird. The Greensboro Police Department already tracked this fingerprint down a year ago.
Nobody followed up? What the hell's going on? John, check it out.
You got it.
When did Drake get out of prison?
He didn't. Drake was given another 40 years. 2 escape attempts and an attack on a guard.
Then he should still be there.
It's not there. Drake committed suicide in prison December last year.
He had a plan. He had 5 pairs of slippers, but he only used 3. He didn't finish. Something doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like how could someone who's dead still be running around, killing people and biting their faces? George, find out where Drake's family buried him. He could have faked his death. If there's any chance he's alive, I want to know about it. And if he's dead, we've got one interesting ride ahead of us. Unmarked grave in a pine box. It's more than he deserved.
Bailey, somebody's been here before us.
Someone took his head.
But what they really wanted were his teeth.
The headless horseman appears to be Monty Drake. His prison dentals match the bite marks from 1957 and the ones found on Sperling's body, and a broken femur from his second escape attempt.
So Drake was the satin slipper killer. Maybe someone knew all along, Someone found his fingerprint like you did, dug up his grave, and is using his teeth to copycat.
It's more than just a copycat, Bailey. Somebody went to so much trouble. It's about completion. Finishing whatever it was that Drake set out to do.
It could also be about publicity. Copycats get off on being part of a bigger case.
Yeah, but this case is 40 years old and forgotten. For somebody to stay focused over such a long period of time, the connect has to be more personal. The answer is in the victims. We have to figure out what they meant to Drake.
Drake only had one visitor in prison over the last year, but he showed up a half a dozen times.
Do you see Ryan? His last visit was 2 days before Drake committed suicide. It's the same name the slippers were delivered to in 1957. John?
There's a couple of dozen T.C. Ryans in North Carolina dating back 40 years. Nobody checks out.
What about that hit on the fingerprint last year by Greensboro PD?
According to them, ghosts must have come in, stolen an ID number, and logged onto the computer.
Smart ghost. He knew Drake's identity and he knows how to leave a crime scene without leaving a trail.
He also knows whatever it was that haunted Monty Drake.
Keep digging. Drake only had one living relative, a son in Greensboro. His name was Connor. I'll have him brought in.
I hated my father. Hated. Only buried him out of decency. More decency than he ever gave me.
Can you tell us anything about him?
I haven't seen him or talked to him since I was 8 years old, when they put his sorry ass in prison.
You ever hear of the satin slipper killer?
Yeah, when I was a kid, had everybody real scared. Everybody was seeing stuff like the killer was in the garage or out in the woods burying bodies.
You have any idea why your father committed suicide?
No surprise. He hated everything.
Nobody is born to hate. That's something you learn.
Yeah. Well, I learned it from him, and he learned it from his father.
Do you remember anything about your grandfather?
Tell you a story. He was a salesman. On one of his trips, he brought home a dog. Shepherd. This dog didn't like kids. Went after my father. Mauled him. Scarred up his face pretty bad. My grandfather watched. Only pulled the dog off at the end.
Bailey, Drake's victims, a salesman, a delivery man, and a bus driver. All people on the road away from home. These are things he saw in his father.
Neglecting their families. You know how that one goes.
Where, at least we know what the teeth mark represents. His father was a violent man. But to a kid who doesn't get any kind of attention, even violence is a kind of father love. The victims are symbols for his father. And killing them is like recreating that father love. It's something he wanted like his father's attention, but it's also something that hurts like his father's violence. It's a vicious circle.
There's only one possible end. Eliminate the source of his violence and the desire. He was working himself up to killing his father. But Drake's father died while he was in prison. Someone else has picked up the pattern. Why? And who?